Hi Judy, it's so
Hi,
nice to
Max.
meet you.
And you?
So could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, it's a tough question actually. I am 34. I'm from Limerick. I've always lived in Limerick. I have 3 kids. So I suppose starting off, I would have been in the motor industry. So it was a family business. So I worked in the garage for years. So that would be my background, and my knowledge was all cars and motors and all that sort of stuff. So this is totally different to what I do now. So I trained then as a therapist going back. I'd say I started maybe almost 10 years ago, starting off on it. So it was something I always wanted to do, but I suppose then I had kids and the motor industry, that was my job, it was my day job, so I just had to earn money and that was it. So it took a while for me to get where I wanted to be, yeah.
Very good. So what inspired you to become a counsellor?
Well, there's a combination of things. I think when I was saying I always wanted to be, I think years ago I'd always liked the idea of it, like as a teenager, you know, when you're kind of thinking, God, what would I like to be? It was always something that interested me, but it was the idea of it. I had no idea what it actually entailed, you know. It was like the illusion of therapy, you know, like sitting on the lying on the couch and whatever, that was class. Yeah. I didn't know how much it would impact on me as a therapist, you know. And when I was 17, my brother died by suicide. So looking back, like at the time, I wasn't really on the road to becoming a therapist at that stage, but it was how I dealt with it and didn't deal with it, I suppose. So like I had went through a lot of hardship after that. I didn't deal with it as, you know, healthily at all for a good few years. I didn't go to therapy for years after it either. It wasn't really encouraged. Like when I think back, it was 17 years ago. So you're talking back in the year 2000. And I know it's like, it doesn't seem that long, but it's almost 20 years. So the stigma is there now, but it was massive back then.
Yeah.
You know, so I remember asking, you know, saying to my family, do you think I should go to counselling? And it was just, no, you know, you don't need it. We're hard, we're tough, it's okay, and we'll get on with it. And so it took me years to realise, Jesus, this is not actually okay. You can't just have a trauma like this and then go on like it doesn't affect you. Yeah. So it was, what inspired me then was me realising, for me, I need to go to therapy. So I went to therapy and then went, oh my God, everyone needs to do this. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Then my real love and my passion for it grew. You know, so the idea went from an ideal to, I really want to do this. So that's kind of the inspiration.
That's brilliant. So what type of training did you do to become a psychotherapist?
Okay, well, as I said, I started off going to therapy myself, and then I did a foundation course. So it's more, because again I was working at the time, I didn't have, you know, I couldn't just go back to college and, you know, train in it full time. So it was more, okay, I like it, but do I want to actually do it? So the foundation course it's kind of a tester to see, you know, and my love for it totally grew. So I did that. Then I went on, I did a 4-year degree. And at the end of that, like you do your placement hours and stuff. Yeah. So when I finished that, what happened was I lost my job. So I became redundant as I finished college. And I was like, so going from working to training, all of a sudden there was nothing. So I had to work up my hours because you have to be accredited. Really, it's, you know, in Ireland, that's the way it works. And I found myself for about 6 months, you know, like job hunting, and I just couldn't even get an interview, like for stuff that I was qualified in. I couldn't figure it out. So an opportunity came up for me to work in UL in the counselling department and to work in Pieta House, both placement. So I ended up working the 2 of them for free for a good year, which was really tough. So having 3 kids, working the 2 of them and getting no money for it, like that was challenging. But if I look back now, if that didn't happen, and if I had gotten a job, I'd still be working the job. I would never have worked up those hours. Yeah. So the training was amazing. The training's very good, but it was the experience I got from the counselling department in UL and from Pieta House that really added to my vast, I suppose, knowledge and my client base and the experience I have. You know,
exactly. It was just a great experience.
Oh, it was, yeah.
So what's a typical day like for you as a psychotherapist then?
For me personally, there is no typical day, and actually that's what I like. Coming from a place where I would have went into work every day and do the same thing all the time, that just it didn't interest me. I suppose, inspire me at all.
Yeah, you like a change up all the time and a variety.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've managed to kind of create that. So it can be hectic in a way, but I work it in such a way, like I practice out in Oakwood now. So I have a room out there. It's a place out in Castle Troy. So I see clients out there. I don't work for Pieta House anymore. So I've branched out from my own clinic as well. Okay. So I see people here. So between the two, I'm quite flexible. Yeah. You know, and I like it that way because with the kids as well, I'm not tied down that it has to be, 9 to 5 and I'm not missing out. So I try, sometimes it can be challenging because I end up working from, a lot in the morning with clients and then I'm collecting the kids or doing all that sort of stuff. And then I'm back in here in the evening again. Okay. So my day then could be 12 hours, but it's not going to be clients for 12 hours. Yeah. But I kind of get the best.
It's like getting it,
Yeah, it's trying to find that work-life balance. And most of the time it works out.
Okay, yeah. So you've got a great reputation in Limerick in terms of counselling and psychotherapy. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, thanks very much. I think it is my different experience with clients, with the vast range of clients. It's that combined with my own personal experience. Like I do have a lot of my own stuff, my own history that I would have went through. Yeah. So when people come to me, it's much easier, I feel, to connect because I'm just there. I get it straight away, and because I'm younger, I'm not that young, I know, but in terms of the therapy world, I am pretty young that you can and I have people come to me all the time going, people that I would know, so I'm not going to work with, and they'd say, look, would you recommend a therapist and someone young? And it does take a while because there aren't that many, because usually it is a thing if you wait until you have a lot of your life experiences. And then in your 40s or 50s, and then you train, and then by the time you establish yourself, whereas I got a lot of life experience quite early, and I just went for it as well. Even I'd have a lot of experience in Pieta House, it's the crisis stuff and it's suicide and self-harm. In UL then you're talking, there is a lot of that, but it's social anxiety, depression, bipolar personality disorders, there's a lot of stuff there. And also gender. I often have sexuality and gender issues come to me all the time, and it's something that I just feel like my sister's gay and my brother that passed away, he was gay as well. Okay. I don't know what that's about, but people, as in my clients would come to me with one thing and it would turn out it could be a gender issue or a sexuality issue. Yeah. Maybe it's that they feel they can open up to me. Yeah. But even in terms of Pieta House, I would have had a few transgender clients there, whereas nobody in Pieta House in Ireland would have had that at that time. Yeah. And it's they still, I attract them somehow. So I think it's the fact that I have a diverse experience. And I'm not really shy about addressing anything. Most things I kind of, it wouldn't faze me. So that does help.
That's great. And counselling can be a very emotionally draining. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Let's say, how do you mind yourself?
Yeah, it is. It's really hard, and that's the biggest thing. At the start, you're told don't cross your legs and sit up a certain way and do blah blah blah, and that's all good and well. But it's afterwards that again it can take its toll when you leave the person and you're left with their stuff. Because when someone comes to you, I do feel privileged. Now I do feel drained and wrecked sometimes, but I am so privileged to be able to sit opposite somebody and have them open up. They take down their walls and they really, share their deepest and darkest fears and feelings with me. And that can take a toll because it can hit all of my stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So it's knowing what's mine, what's theirs. It's having good supervision. That's key. So if I'm affected, it's peer supervision and professional supervision as well. Yeah. And minding myself for me, it would be training, going to the gym, boxing. I boxed for years for the simple reason for my mental, my mental health. Yeah. It genuinely was. Yeah. I just had to physically get rid of the energy that I was kind of carrying as well. Yeah. Actually, my manager in Pieta House, I'll never forget, she said it at the start, and it always stuck with me because in Pieta you do come across very traumatic things all the time. And it was pick a point in the road. So when you drive and you cross that point in the road and you're driving into work, then you switch on and then you start to think, okay, what am I facing into? And the same when you're going home. So you need to be that boundary to where I can let the stuff in, but when I go home, I'm not bringing it home with me. Because if you do, you get worn down and you're not actually able to be there for the client at all. So then you're just no good, for anything.
You're no good to them, yeah.
Definitely not, yeah.
So, what type of counselling do you specialise in?
I suppose, okay, you could call it humanistic, okay, and like...
Carl Rogers type of...
Yeah, do you know what, I don't actually, that's an interesting one because I haven't thought about it in a long time theory-wise, because I do an awful lot of reading still, so I would have what I would have learnt, I suppose, even the Freudian stuff, I loved all that, but as I go into it more and more and meet different clients, whereas I thought I would have been, I can be quite CBT at times or solution focused, but I'm not. It's just really whatever the client brings in front of me.
Yeah.
And I would say that, and I think sometimes people think, it's a bit watered down, but that's the way I work. So clients would say to me, I'm looking for this and how do you work? And I'm like, well, I've trained in this, but it depends on whatever you bring me.
Yes.
Do you know? And however I don't work from an agenda.
Yeah.
You know?
So basically it depends on the client and
It
where
does.
they're at.
Yeah, and what they're open to as well, because some people would be more into body work and that, other people they're not ready for it. So if I was to, based on my needs or my thinking that this is actually the best thing for them, well then I've taken away this is the whole point, I suppose. I believe in empowering people.
Yeah, like the client is the expert.
Absolutely. And I don't say, okay, well now what would you like to do? You know, I still have my own, like I have my stuff that I know is good for them or whatever, but I don't go in believing I'm going to do this now and that's what, because I used to, because it's to do at the start.
Yeah.
Right now I'm going to tackle their issue now with their dad next week. It's going to be amazing, and this is... No, because they'll come in with something that happened to them in work or whatever, and we try and get back to where it came from, the root. But if you go in with an agenda or like that, a theory in the back of your head, you know, you can miss things that they're saying.
Yeah.
So even having that, sometimes you miss just being in the room.
Yeah.
So it's just being present
Being
with someone.
present.
Oh
Yeah, that's really important.
Definitely, yeah.
So you have a weekly column in the local paper in Limerick. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because before I trained in as a psychotherapist, I actually wanted to be a writer as well. So I love writing. So I suppose the opportunity came to me and I thought, okay, yeah, definitely, because it was interesting as in it's in my field, but also aside from that, I just love writing. If I didn't love writing, I wouldn't do it, because anyone who writes regularly will know, you know, you have to be in that headspace, and if it's a chore, it can take over. But I really like it and enjoy it. And it's funny how people, you know, email in whatever their issues or their queries or questions, and they're so similar in ways, because that's what strikes me all the time. We're human. At the end of the day, we all have, no matter what different circumstances, we all have the same feelings, we have the same fears, we have the same issues, but with a different label on it.
Yeah, we're all
so
human.
we are, yeah. So it's really fascinating. Oh my God. So sometimes they can blur into each other, and I'm going, you know, so it's interesting in that, like, striking the balance between professional and psychological point of view, and also with the people who are reading it. They don't want to hear the theories. They want to hear, well, Jesus, if it happened to me, what would I do? You know, and that's something that I found a bit of a challenge, because it's, in a way, it's a style of advice column, and as a therapist I don't give advice. Very, very, very rarely, because again, that's my stuff. That's my belief that I know what's best for you.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of, there was a bit of a resistance at the start on how do I, you know, word this to enable the client. But I think I've gotten it in a way that I'm not telling the person what to do. It's more...
Yeah, it's up to them to kind of help themselves.
Exactly. And see the dynamic that they're in, you know, and how to help them get out of it. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So what would be the more common issues that people would come to you with?
Yeah, I suppose, and there would be, you've got the diverse out there different stuff, but yeah, like even when I was saying about the column, it's quite, there are a lot of similar ones at the moment. Social anxiety, without a doubt, that's one of the biggest ones, and it's down to, and it's funny, you know, like, it's people you wouldn't think of, if that makes sense. Like, I see people who outside of here would be very confident and competent and good at their job, and to the outside looking in has it all together, whereas they could be petrified walking downtown, you know, going into their local shop, whatever. And you'd see it a lot if you look out for, we'll say in any shop or restaurant or whatever, people in a queue, the amount of people, they're at their phones or they've got their headphones in all the time, and that's a real thing to do to just keep them in their bubble. So they don't have to interact.
It's their kind of coping mechanism.
Oh, completely.
With it.
Yeah.
And would you think that like that would have happened because a lot of celebrities would have come out with social anxiety issues? Do you think that's why people are opening up a lot more?
Yeah. I think partly, especially with adolescents, definitely, because they're so easily influenced by, you know, other Kardashians and all that, you know, like they're there all the time, so they're looking at it, and because celebrities nowadays are famous for just being them. They're not necessarily famous for a skill or for something, not, you know, a lot of them. So they tell their story all the time, where then teenagers look and they go, oh my God, that's what's going on for them. So it can at times become, I suppose, something that they would take on. That it's not actually their identity, but they take it on because they think, okay, well, it's part of being cool, but like being accepted as, you know, this is what you do now. Yeah. So with teenagers, I think sometimes there is a little bit of that
influence.
Yeah. But also, I think the social anxiety that I've come across a lot would be even older people in their 30s and 40s, you know, who just their own confidence is knocked, and they just find it difficult to deal with the everyday stuff. It's total overwhelm, panic, and it's because of pressure that they should be a certain way, they should have a certain job, they should have a certain, and it could be even just amongst their family. So I think that's a really big thing at the moment. Yeah.
So do you feel that social media impacts on people's mental health?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah. There is just a direct correlation. You know, you just couldn't get it clearer. It's like what I was speaking about of teenagers being influenced by, you know, celebrities or whatever, but it's also amongst, you know, their peers. And I know I'm focusing more on the adolescents because I do think, well, I deal with an awful lot of adolescents, but no, to be fair, it goes into the 20s and 30s as well, and up, of people who share their perfect lives online, you know, and we're going on holidays and here we are and we're the perfect couple and all of this, which is just a screen. You know, that's all you're seeing. You're not seeing the person's life at all. But because that's the world we live in.
They want to protect this persona that everything is perfect.
Exactly.
And I have the best life.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So if you have to live in that world all the time where everything has to be perfect and you have to look good and your eyebrows have to be amazing and everything's on fleek and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of pressure. So when do you have a down day? When do you feel like crap? When do you not go out and not wear makeup? Nobody sees that.
Yeah.
So then when they come to me, it's like they fall apart for that hour because it's like they're allowed to just be them. You know, warts and all, just human. So I think that's like that hand in hand with social anxiety. You know, it's just one feeds the other.
Could change one thing in society in terms of mental health, what would it be?
It's a really hard question. I have no idea because it's one thing. I think on what we're talking about, social media would be key. I think that's a massive thing at the moment. There's loads of things. There's actually loads of things. I don't even know where to start, but we'll go with social media. And in terms of starting from right down from kids up, and in the same respect, so you've got your kids, but you've also got parents now who are first-time parents and whatever, who straight away and from birth, like they're putting their story online, so the kids are growing up with this public persona that this is how I need to be.
Which is very unfair because you're putting pressure on the kids.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So from my generation, like I didn't have this until late teens or whatever, so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't
the done thing.
I didn't have it naturally. Whereas for kids now, they have to learn to switch on, to be on all the time. And when you're on all the time, there's an expectation of you.
Yeah.
So what I would say a lot, and I say it to myself, you know, going into any situation, whatever, it's like, don't expect, just accept. So if you think of expectation, when you have an expectation of yourself, straight away there's an anxiety to meet the expectation. Okay? So social media, everything, it's all an expectation. You know, it's all, okay, well, I've done this, or I've got this many likes, so how can I build on it? It's massive. So if you can just accept the way you are, like, okay, yeah, I even if you talk about dieting, like, yeah, did a great week, fine, but today I feel like eating a load of crap and I feel like shit. That's okay. That's a day. That's one day. We're allowed. Do you know?
Yeah, we're allowed that.
Yeah, we don't accept ourselves anymore. So I think that, yeah.
So how would you like to be remembered?
God, that's way worse than the last one. How would I like to be remembered? Oh, ballsy. Yeah, I do. I think I know it probably sounds mad, but I always believe in, if you want something, go for it and get it.
Yeah.
And no matter what people tell you, if they say you can't do it, if they say no, you're not good enough or whatever, that's their shit,
Yeah.
you know. And I think across the board and whatever, if you stay true to yourself, believe in yourself, don't hurt other people. There's no need to be vindictive. We don't have to push other people down to get up. There's no need for that. But it's believing in yourself. So I think even in terms of, not even just professionally, but even as a mother, that's what I'd like to be remembered as. Just something, if you want to do it, just do it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
Okay.
I'll take it on board.
Okay, cool.
Thanks
Thanks.
Thanks so much. It was lovely.
Okay, yeah, thank you.